Recording in progress.
Testing? Yeah, it's working.
And it's being filmed and all that other
Yep.
cool stuff?
The sign's not working.
Yeah, that's right. All right, welcome everybody. I'd like to call to session the October 27th Untitled Township meeting. Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, would you state the statement of the presiding officer?
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting was electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. Public comment period will be held in the order it is listed on the meeting agenda.
Thank you very much. Megan, would you please take roll call?
Committeeman Dorsey?
Here.
Committeeman Lavender?
Present.
Committeeman Verleza?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Present.
Mayor Paserchia?
Present. For those watching at home and here in this crowded courtroom, number 4 on your agenda, ordinance 47-21, second reading, up for adoption, an ordinance concerning shade trees and amending Chapter 23 of the Township Code entitled Shade Trees. So first I'll ask the committee if they have any questions, comments. And to be fair, maybe Jack, if you wanted to give a brief summary of this. I know we've already discussed it.
Yes, Mayor, this is making mainly administrative changes to the ordinance previously adopted. It combines the registration and permit sections so that there's just one application made to the clerk, and the clerk can determine whether a permit is needed if it's on public property. It also establishes the tree protection fund because we did have some payments into a tree protection fund that didn't exist, so now it will exist as a result of this ordinance. It also makes some other clarifications to the earlier ordinance.
Thank you. Now, the Shade Tree Commission did have a question. How is it determined if a tree is in the town right away? Because that's the difference between a registration or a permit.
I believe the clerk's office will make the determination, and if need be, they can consult with the zoning officer and the engineer.
The township right-of-way, the streets are listed on our website, and that's how we've been determining township trees versus not township trees.
I'm sorry, how is it?
The township right-of-ways, if you go onto the website under the Shade Tree website, most of them are 50 feet from the
Most of the
center
rights of way.
line of the road, but there's a few places in town where it's a little bit more, a little bit less, if
Right.
I'm correct, Al? So that's how they've been determining it right now.
They being, who's
The
that?
Shade Tree and DPW and the code
So-
enforcement officer.
Will the Shade Tree Commission be consulted as to the distance, or is that determined by Al? Is it determined by?
That's an administrative function. It
Yeah,
either is or it isn't.
We've basically been asking the homeowners, because a lot of people will call and ask, is this a township tree? Is this my tree? What am I filling out? And I say, if you go onto the website, you can determine if it's a township tree or a private tree based off of the center line of the road, measuring 50 feet back, or if you're one of those roads that it has a different measurement, and then we've been making it their responsibility to
So let me ask
determine if
you,
it's a
let's
township.
say somebody made an innocent mistake, and it was really 40 feet, and then it's reported as 40 feet. What recourse does the town have there?
Well, if it's 40 feet, it's probably on their property. So the only danger would be is if it's designated as a private tree when in fact it was a public tree. That's the only
Yeah, well,
thing.
okay, let's make the example where it's a public tree, and it was cut down, the property owner innocently did it, but they did cut it down.
Well, if they did it with our approval, then, you know, we'd
Without
probably
our
have any
approval.
right. But if they did it without our approval, I think we could go after them for either a replacement tree or the
Okay.
contribution in lieu of replacing.
So still, we have to give permission.
Correct.
They report it. I think that was the hesitancy of the Shade Tree Commission. They're thinking to themselves, should they have some oversight as to whether the tree is on the town right away, or Al, or...
Yeah, Al's probably the best equipped of anyone to make
I
that
think
determination.
and I've done this with Al before, if there is one in question, Al will go out and take a look,
Perfect.
or Alec will as well.
Right, because no matter what, they have to register.
Right, they either
So we
have
know
to-
if a tree's coming
correct.
down.
Yeah.
And therein lies, if there's some question, Al would go out. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep,
I have a question for Jack.
sure.
And this is a difference I think I picked up. I want to see if you can confirm it. I thought the original ordinance under tree removal registration cited a diameter breast height of 12 inches or more. And this one's 6.
I thought we made them consistent. Oh, yeah, you're right, it is 12.
So should that be corrected?
That should be corrected, and that's a clerical mistake, I apologize.
All right.
Good catch there.
I
Any other
actually went through
comments,
this
questions? I'm
process
sorry.
last week.
Yeah,
Any other comments, questions?
No.
Okay, this is second reading, so I'd like to open up the meeting to the public on this ordinance only, 479-21.
Do we need to open up the Zoom?
The Zoom is open. There are 2 people attending. If they would like to raise their hand, they can do so, and I can allow them to speak.
Thank you, Megan. We'll give them a second there to get their bearings.
I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you, Megan. All right, I'll close the public portion on this ordinance and look for a motion to approve.
No.
Hmm?
We have a change though to it, right, Jack?
yes.
So should the
So-
motion,
So move to correct the typo. Well, actually, we don't even need to do that. It's a typo, it will be corrected. So you're voting on it with the 12 inches inserted above.
okay.
So moved.
Second,
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. And in the interim between the last meeting and this meeting, I did receive several concerns that the people at home cannot understand us because we have the masks on. I don't know how to address it. If anybody can, who's watching at home, to give us a heads up. In a perfect world, I would suggest that whoever is speaking could remove their mask. I don't know if the committee would be comfortable with that.
I would be.
Okay, so then whoever's speaking will take their mask off to the side. How about that? And since I'm the one talking, here we go. So ordinance 48-21, second reading. This is also for adoption, regulating bamboo and supplementing and amending Chapter 16 of the Township Code entitled Property Maintenance. Now, we've gone over this several times, Jack. I don't know if you want to give a brief overview?
Yeah, the purpose of this is to prohibit the planting of invasive bamboo, and the types are named in here thanks to Mr. Lavender's research. And also, if you already have them, it provides protections so that it doesn't creep onto the neighbor's property.
Okay. Questions, comments? I know we've spoken about this at length, so I don't know. Scott, I'll give you a chance to find any typos.
None found yet.
One change to this that was made since first reading is zoning officer has been replaced with code enforcement officer. Again, that's just an administrative change, so the published copy says code enforcement officer.
Yeah, so sorry, Megan, there's a big note here that you put, and I missed it. Okay, I'd like to open up the meeting to the public on this ordinance 48-21. Seeing and hearing none, anybody at home?
I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you, Megan. I'm going to close the meeting to the public on this ordinance and look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second, one of us. Doesn't matter. You.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. Okay, ordinance 482-21, second reading adoption again concerning the police department and amending chapter 2 of the Township Code entitled Administration. Jack, if I could turn it to you again.
Yes, and this was discussed at length at the last meeting, Mayor. There was an inconsistency in the ordinance vis-à-vis the state statute, because the state statute says that the police chief is accountable to the appropriate authority. In our ordinance, we name the township committee as the appropriate authority, and in another section of the ordinance, it says that the chief reports to the administrator, or to the township committee through the administrator. So that was an inconsistency. We're clarifying it now. You're certainly free to change the appropriate authority at any time you wish in the future. This just cleans it up for the near term.
Thank you, Jack. Any comments, questions from the Township Committee?
I'm still voicing my objection. Governing for two people or few people is not the right way to do things. This has been, I mean, obviously it doesn't work 100% right every time, but this is the way it's been for 70-something years probably, if not more. I don't know when this ordinance was drafted, and it's worked so far. And I don't see the need to change it, as I said, because of a personality conflict between people. It makes no sense to me, as I think Chuck summed up everything very well last time. There's other towns, and most of the towns, I think, have them this way. Morris Township, Chester, Florham Park, Chatham Borough, Chatham Township has it this way. A bunch of others surround Bernardsville, where Jack's also a township attorney. They have it our way too, and it seems to work there. I don't see why we need to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of problems with this. We don't have the day-to-day capability to deal with the day-to-day needs of the police department. We're volunteers. We all have different skill sets and levels. We pay an administrator to do his or her job, whoever's sitting in that seat. That administrator is tasked with knowing what the law is, financing laws, purchasing laws. We don't have that knowledge. We might, some of us, a little bit, but we change all the time. So we might be a different group of people 3 years from now. There might be different people sitting at the police department and at town hall. So then we also have to if we have to take this, then we're going to be responsible probably for hiring and firing, discipline, and everything else. So that's also stuff that we're going to have to deal with that you might not want to deal with. And I don't know how you want to do it, because then it allows people to forum shop who you want to go to for certain things. I mean, right now, the only person who really can't get involved is Brendan because of conflict. But in reality, the chief or the administrator can come at any one of us they want to at any time and say, this is what I want, this is how I want to do it. There's really no guidance in place, and I just think it's a bad idea reinventing the wheel and governing for two people when that's just bad government. And just leave it the way it is, and find designated people that the individuals can talk to or get around, and just go with this. Because, as I said, there's positions, administrator and chief. There's always going to be administrator and chief. However, in the future, there are going to be different people in those chairs. So we're just biting off a big chunk of stuff that we don't want to deal with and we can't deal with. And it's not fair to either party. For example, let's say there's an election coming up and there's 3 defund the police people that get elected, or there's 3 other people that get elected, and the police department's not going to get anything. So it's going to work against both ways. And at least we have hired professional employees at Town Hall. If somebody at Mercer Street needs something, they just call Town Hall. Otherwise, they have to track down one of us or 2 of us or whatever to try to get something done when we have people that we pay on a daily basis to deal with these problems and issues that arise. I don't know anything about public spending or financing, so if somebody in the police department came to me and said, hey, am I allowed to use line item A to buy something from here? I won't know the answer to it. But obviously, the CFO, the administrator, if we had a business administrator, they would all know these things. I don't, and I don't think any of us up here do. And obviously, that could change, but for now, I mean, those are my objections, again, and I think changing this and governing because of a personality conflict is bad precedent, and it's only gonna set us in the wrong direction.
Thank you.
I can't speak, I think what you're really talking about is who should be the appropriate authority.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what Bernardsville did. Bernardsville's council was the appropriate authority until about 5 years ago, and they changed it. But all we're doing here is removing the inconsistency. You could certainly change it in the future, next meeting if you want, to make the administrator the appropriate authority.
Can I
Right.
can I comment?
Go ahead. Of course, Scott.
So Jack, you and I had a comment because, you know, I wanted to dig in
Yes.
a little bit more on the basics of this township committee form of government.
Mhm.
And as I understand it, the way we're set up through resolution and precedent, the township committee retains most of the executive powers. I think that's what you said to me.
That's correct. Under the administrative statute, which is of relatively recent vintage, 30, 40 years.
Right.
It allows, and it's been amended over time to allow the township committee to delegate more authority to the administrator.
That's, yeah,
But in Long Hill Township, the township committee has not delegated that much authority to the administrator. You can almost give the administrator as much power as a township manager in a Faulkner community. But here, it's the township committee, you're absolutely right.
right. The township committee represents the residents of Long Hill. We're the elected representatives. We're in charge. We delegate responsibility to the employees that help us run this town. And so responsibility to do certain things is delegated to the administrator, because Matt's right, we don't have that experience, right? But as we fix this inconsistency and straighten out our processes internally to make the relationships between the departments work smoother, when they are, we can delegate that responsibility back in, correct?
That's correct. You always have that discretion.
And we can so responsibility can be delegated and pulled back at any time.
That's correct. Just by amending the administrator ordinance.
And no offense to Nancy, she doesn't run the town. The township committee runs the town.
Mhm.
We're in charge. We're elected by the residents to run the town. So let's make no mistake who's in charge. The police chief answers to us. DPW answers to us. The administrator answers to us. We delegate some of that responsibility down. We pull some of that back when we've got to make it work a little bit better. And there's some things we need to do from a process perspective. So I understand Matt's concerns. You're right. New people could be sitting in these chairs who don't know what they're doing. People don't necessarily vote us based upon our expertise. But we need to put a system in place where we can manage this and make these departments cooperate and work together better. All right, so I'm fine with it. And, you know, I'm fine with it with certain qualifications that if we're going to do this, we've got to put a system of governance in place to manage it and manage it within the bandwidth that we have to do it. Right?
Yep. And so, Scott, thank you. I would just say, Matt, and by the way, thank you for, very respectfully pointing out your concerns. The only thing I wanted to address there, and Jack, this is probably a legal question. Matt mentioned something about the hiring and promotion process and how township committee would get involved in something it's not really equipped or qualified to. My understanding is this ordinance doesn't change that. I mean, there are processes in place, and it's a work in progress. We'll address the hiring and promotion, and we do each year at the reorg meeting, if I remember correctly.
That's correct. One of the duties of the appropriate authority is to adopt rules and regulations for the police department. And that resolution should be on every reorganization agenda. So in those rules and regulations, you set forth the procedures for hiring and promotions. So this has no effect on that. It's just naming or clarifying the appropriate authority.
Right, I think Matt's concern, and I would agree with him if that were in fact what was going to happen, is that the township committee would start getting involved in police matters in something that it is not qualified to do, and I certainly don't think that's the intent here.
Well, the chief is also protected by the Police Chief Bill of Rights, which
Well, I'm not
delegates to
talking about
him
the
the
day-to-day
day-to-day management.
operations. I'm talking about stuff that normally is handled by town hall, stuff that's not like, all right, who's assigned to what post or who's assigned to what shift. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the normal everyday stuff. For example, budgeting questions, needs insurance certificate, needs contract review, that kind of stuff. We're not gonna, we can't have time to do that. We all have jobs.
How does that not go to the administrator?
Well, that's the point. It's like, all right, listen, it's like having your cake and eat it too. Then the administrator's basically at the service of the police department. Because then you get into a situation where it's, all right, hey, listen, let's get married, but I'm gonna go see other people too. That doesn't work that way.
See, I disagree with that. They operate as peers underneath a single employer.
That's where I disagree with you, but.
Okay, well,
that's-
we're fine.
Yeah, no,
Hey, you and I have talked, I mean.
Yeah, no, you and I
know,
talk, that's what I mean. I just have a different philosophy about it, but I understand your point, you understand mine.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm really under the impression that, you know, our community, the voters, believe that the township committee runs the town, and ultimately the police chief, you know, within the boundaries of our authority, would answer to us. I'm also under the impression that the police, as you quoted, the police chief's rights,
Bill of Rights,
Bill
yes.
of Rights, would probably contradict him answering to it in any town, a chief answering to an administrator to a certain extent.
It gets complicated, but yes.
So that's-
Under the
again,
day-to-day
it-
management of the police.
That's my
function, yes.
interpretation also, so I'm comfortable with the changing of the, you know, the clarification.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none from the committee, that is, I'd like to open up to the public on this ordinance only. Comments, questions? Seeing none? Here? Up? I apologize.
Oh, I apologize.
Good evening, Township Committee.
Good evening, Chief.
Last Township Committee meeting, I approached the bench, for lack of better terms, and had a discussion briefly with Attorney Jack Pigeon regarding Committeeman Dorsey's statement. I put in my notice then that it's absolutely inappropriate for him to discuss our personnel matters out in public. So Committeeman Dorsey, I'm going to direct this to you. Last meeting, you suggested that change of the ordinance as it relates to the appropriate authority for the police chief and clarifying an issue that was clearly a violation of Title 40 and a confliction in your own ordinance is a matter of personality conflict. Or as you put it, two people that can't get along, referencing both the administrator and myself. This conduct is absolutely deplorable. While you're entitled to your opinion, you're surely not entitled to come out in public and make accusations unless you're willing to support those accusations with specific incidents. I'm requesting not only that you retract your statement, but denounce it as well from the last meeting and this meeting. If you want to discuss your concerns in public, let's do it in accordance with the laws that are applicable and provide all the evidence that the public needs to come up with their own conclusion on what has been transpiring behind the scenes. At the time when you became aware of concerns while you were the standing mayor and failed to take any appropriate action regarding my concerns for over a year to look into my allegations, the idea that you and, at the time, some other committee members were going to simply bury their head in the sand and make this problem go away is not acceptable. If anything, it escalated the situation that we're dealing with today. I served this town with honor, respect, pride, and dignity for almost 20 years, and I will not allow you or anyone to dishonor or misrepresent any of the work that I've done in my years of service. In the face of transparency, I urge you to share my complaint that I made before you to the public and let them judge whether or not your opinion of personality conflict truly exists. While I have repeatedly asked for intervention and mediation, you have remained silent and gathered your intelligence from trusted sources at Town Hall. You and I know, based on your field of work, that in order to come up with a logical conclusion to an investigation, you must take into account all credible witnesses and facts to properly prosecute a case. I ask you to afford the same level of professionalism as you provide in the courtroom. Any retaliatory behavior on your part or the part of the administration at Town Hall will be deemed a violation of the Conscientious Employee Protection Act and in violation of the whistleblower laws. I'll take appropriate legal action, as I promised Attorney Pigeon, and act accordingly to protect myself and protect those employees that come forward with their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, any comments, questions from the Township Committee? Hearing none. Public? None here in the courtroom. Megan, from home.
I don't see any, Mayor.
Thank you. So I'm looking for a motion to approve or deny. I think Committeeman, or Deputy Mayor Ray, I apologize. You have to abstain, okay. So I'm looking for a motion for approve or to deny.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Committeeman Dorsey?
No.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Abstain.
Mayor Paserchia?
Did you have to think about that for a second?
I was trying to do a Cornell.
You have to vote.
Yes, yes. Jack just ordered me to vote.
I didn't order you to.
You said you have to vote.
Takes 3 to pass an ordinance.
All right, so ordinance 480-21, another second reading. Wow, we've been very busy. No,
No,
I'm
this
on the
is
wrong
first
page,
reading.
aren't I?
First reading.
All right, I apologize. Where are we?
Bond ordinance.
Bond
Work,
ordinance
work, work. Bond
483.
ordinance, okay. Bond ordinance 483-21, first reading. I'll read the ordinance itself. This is considering it is first reading. Bond ordinance providing for the remediation of the police headquarters in and by the Township of Long Hill in the County of Morris, New Jersey, appropriating $461,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $438,000 in bonds or notes of the township for financing such appropriation. Jack, did you want to give we've again spoken about this in the past, but could you just put it in a framework so Brendan can understand?
Yes, we had two options. One was to make an emergency appropriation of the $438,000 bonds or notes. If we did that, it would be part of next year's budget, and it would affect the cap. So during a conference call with the administrator, the auditor, and bond counsel, it was determined that the best way to proceed would be to issue or to appropriate the money through a bond ordinance. That way, there wouldn't need to be an emergency appropriation. Then that, if cash comes in from FEMA or from any other source in the meantime, that money can be used to pay it, and bonds or bond anticipation notes will never have to be issued.
Thank you, Jack. So, any comments, questions from the committee? Hearing none, this is first reading, so we will not open it up to the public.
Right.
We have, can I have a motion to approve on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
I'm abstaining.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. And the ordinance 483-21, the one we just discussed, will be considered for second reading and adoption at the November 10th, 2021 meeting. Consent agenda, that's item number 5 on your scorecard. Would anybody like to pull a resolution to discuss or abstain from any? Brendan, I think you're going to abstain from 21-277, in-grade advancement for Police Officer Roble. What? Well, you seemed to hesitate before, so I thought maybe you were not all here. I was trying to be helpful.
As ever.
Would you like to make the motion? Come on, you can do
I'm
it.
not making a motion, no.
No, you can make, no, now you're upset. Brendan's upset. Can somebody else make the motion? Resolution -21-270 to 21-277.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
And Mayor Paserchia.
Yes, and Brendan did abstain from 21-277. You didn't even say it.
Well, you said it.
I said it,
You
okay.
said it.
I didn't, all right, I like that, I like the power. Liaison report, let's go to my left. Scott?
Okay. Recreation. A lot of things going on as usual. Travel basketball tryouts are now complete, and the basketball teams are practicing to get ready for the start of the season, so good luck to those teams and the boys and girls that made it. Rec basketball programs on Saturdays start on November 20th. Registration is still open. It's open until November 1st, so get your registrations in quickly. That's for grades 1 through 8. Adult basketball open play started last Thursday at Central School. That's going to run into May, and signups are still being accepted. So far, we have 24 adults registered. Would like to remind everybody that Red Cross First Aid class is this Thursday. That's tomorrow, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., and the Red Cross CPR AED class is November 11th, 6 to 9. You can find registration and location information on our website. And this is exciting. So the day after Thanksgiving, we'll be placing the Santa mailbox outside Town Hall for letters to Santa. And I hear Deputy Mayor Ray is shopping for a white fur collar and an elfin Santa hat to go with that beautiful red coat he's wearing.
He beat me to it.
In addition, we'll post the rules for our holiday lights and decoration contest, additional categories this year. Keep an eye out for that. And we'll also be holding our cookie decorating contest, so keep an eye out for that. And lastly, on behalf of Lisa Scanlon, Director of Parks and Recreation, if you're in our park and you see a spotted lanternfly, stomp on it. Thank you.
Victor?
Thank you, Mayor. The police liaison report for October 27th, 2021 is as follows. Self-initiated activity and calls for service year-to-date, 17,142. School activity year-to-date, 1,575. Motor vehicle stops year-to-date, 1,662. Community policing and proactive residential radar posts, 1,430. Arrest incidents year-to-date, 27. And actual subjects, both adult and juvenile, that were arrested, 31. Major incidents, none to report. Special requests, also none to report. And now we go to community policing. The Long Hill Township Police Department has been active in the Halloween festivities throughout the town, inclusive of the Halloween parade and the trunk or treat, but would like you to pay special attention and look out for our annual, oh geez, I'm killing this one, sorry guys, but would like you to pay special attention and look out for our annual Halloween themed creepy police car cruising the streets of Long Hill Township on October 21st, 31st, 2021. Not my best performance. Treats will be provided for adults, kids, and dogs. We look forward to creeping up on you. And thankfully, that concludes the police liaison report.
Thank you, Vic. Matt, I guess I'll turn to you.
Let's see, the road, DPW, they're doing crack sealing. They have a new system to do it that can get larger and deeper cracks now. And they're also doing a lot of sidewalk repair. So we only have so many eyes and ears that are employed by the town. So if any resident knows of any sidewalks that are in need of repair and or their street might be cracked or needs repair, please contact the DPW through email, because it's more helpful. The more people let us know, the faster we can fix the problems. And they're still doing the fall cleanups too, so they're very busy this time of year. And thank you to all the fire personnel for the great job you've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Brendan?
Nothing.
Thank you, Brendan. All right, so just one thing. I wanted a special shout out to the First Aid Squad. They sponsored the trunk or treat this past Saturday or Sunday. I was there, as was the, what did you call it, the creepy officer?
Wait, I'll find it. It's the creepy police car cruising the streets of Long Hill Township on
Creepy
October
police car.
31st.
Well,
The
the creepy-
creepy police car.
The creepy police car was in fact there, and I must say, I think it's been going on for about 5 years or so. This was the best attended one I've seen. It was crowded. There were a lot of kids there. I think there are some moms in town that aren't very happy with me. I thought my advice was very good. I told each of the children that attended that it was very important that they eat as much chocolate before dinner. And that didn't seem to go over too well. So a special shout out to the first aid squad. And I would add, they're in recruiting new folks to join the first aid squad. And I can tell you, and I wish I knew the exact numbers, but there are a number of young volunteers that have passed through the first aid squad that have gone on to careers in the medical profession, whether it's nursing, becoming doctors, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a great way to get firsthand experience, and the mentoring you will get at the first aid squad here in Long Hill Township is second to none. It's one of the best first aid squads in the state. So I strongly encourage anybody who would like to sign up or, volunteer, and it would be worth it on many levels. So thank you for that. I did want to briefly comment on the co-op. There seems to be some confusion, and justifiably. JCP&L sent out a notice that was, I think, it was brief and unclear what was happening. The Morris County Co-op that we belong to, along with 14 other towns, there's only two possibilities that can happen. If the co-op, when it bids, it could be a 3, 4, 5 month, whatever the contract is that they have, is lower than the default rate. The default rate is what every town pays, every user, thank you, Matt, in the state uses. So there's two co-ops. There's the state co-op and there's the county co-op. If the county co-op rate is lower, that rate stays in place. And I don't remember when we did it. I know the co-op was formed in June of 2014. We were not one of the first towns. We might have joined in 15 or so, whenever it was. This is not the first time this has happened. The reason why it happens is if rates go up significantly in a very compressed period of time, the nimbleness that the co-op can bid is, in that rare occasion, cannot be better than the rate that the state gets. And hopefully I'm not making this clear as mud. The point is this: ignore the letter you received from JCP&L. The proper notice is on the township website, it's on the township Facebook page, and every resident in town and business will receive a letter from the consultant who handles the Morris County Co-op. And then it will be clearer. But if you want to read the details now, please go on the township website. It's there, right, I think, and it's also on the township Facebook page. You will receive a letter from the co-op. I think it's best for everybody to just ignore that letter from JCP&L. I mean, I'm very familiar with what this program is, and frankly, after reading the letter, it gave me a headache. So just ignore that notice from JCP&L.
Well, in essence, really, and I try to explain this to I tried to my father, my friend's father that called me. If they didn't send you that letter, you wouldn't even know anything changed. Your electricity's not getting shut off, everything stays the same, your bill's the same. So if you never got that letter, you wouldn't even know there was a problem. So it's really nothing to worry about.
That's exactly right. I mean, JCP&L does not, they deliver the power to your house. They are not the provider of the energy. The provider is, whether it's IDT or whomever, whoever the state co-op is with. So Matt's 100% right. If you hadn't received that letter, you wouldn't have noticed any difference. I don't think the contract expires until the end of November. And then I think sometime in February is when the next bidding process can take place. And I will say, this happened once before over the last 5 years, and it wasn't as confusing then. I think the reason is the co-op letter from the county went out before the letter or the notice from JCP&L. That's why this time it seems a little bit more confusing.
But certainly, I'd like to thank you, Mayor, for that explanation. It certainly cleared everything up for me. Thank you.
Oh, you're still mad about,
No,
I didn't say anything about the
I-
jacket.
I give,
Stop it.
I give credit where credit's due.
All right. I'll practice with me. Ho, ho, ho. All right, where are we? I think we're at the, just before, I know it's the administrator's report, I just want to, yeah.
Number 7.
Let's go over number 7. Jack's following on his scorecard. Number 7, the administrator's report. Nancy?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to follow up on your explanation. I did have a conversation today with the consultant. There will be a slight increase in people's bills because what happens is it defaults to the JCP&L rate because none of the bidders came in lower than JCP&L. So because it defaults to JCP&L, people might see a slight increase. It is less than 1 cent per kilowatt hour. The average user is 600 kilowatt hours per month. So people might see $6 a month increase. So just if they're, I mean, people probably won't even notice it, but because of the fact that the third-party supplier was lower than JCP&L, and now they came up to JCP&L, there could be a slight increase in
Thank you,
people's
Nancy. And
rate.
that's indicative of why you go into the co-op,
Right.
the county co-op, because generally speaking, it's going to be lower. By contract, by BPU rules, it either is lower than the JCP&L, or I should say the state co-op rate, or if it's not lower, you default
has
to
to go back.
JCP&L, which is what you would have been involved in all along. Okay.
Exactly.
The
So,
floor is yours, Nancy.
yes, so she said that they will be going out to, they'll be watching, they'll be monitoring. The aggregate energy costs are very high now, so they'll be monitoring them and going out, like you said, in the spring or possibly the summer, and then hopefully people will have lower rates in the fall again. If people are interested in opting out, they always can. It's in the letter that they receive. I mean, I don't know why they would, because they get a lower rate this way, but it's always an option. The only other thing I have is Shane Daly, the new Community Services Program Manager, gave me a summary, an update. As you know, her position started in the beginning of September, and she wanted me to give an update on what she's been working on. She's been networking with various agencies. She attended seminars on mental health and geriatrics and wellness, as well as social isolation. She met with various agencies, houses of worship, the senior center, county agencies, and first aid. She is helping still transition the new emergency management coordinator, as well as taking care of the last storm prior to September 1st. She's handled various inquiries from residents, and good news for the seniors while we are trying to figure out while we're trying to find a senior bus driver, the MAPS, the Morris Area, I believe it's called Paratransit Service. I'm not sure what MAPS stands for, but I think that's what it is. It is a share a ride service, so they used to only provide transportation to doctor's appointments, but now while we don't have a bus, they're stepping up for us and providing food shopping for seniors as well. So that, if it's not already there, that information for them to contact should be on our website. It's definitely on the county website if anybody wants to take advantage of it.
Nancy, some clarification on the senior bus, and we've talked about this several times, and I keep reading things on social media where people say that the Township Committee is not addressing this. And quite frankly, personally, I'm getting irritated by that because we've talked about this a lot. There's a shortage of bus drivers in the country, right?
Yes.
And one of the chief inhibitors to finding bus drivers is a commercial driver's license, correct?
Correct.
And a commercial driver's license takes how long to get?
Well, now there's such backups at DMV. I'm told that it's going to take like 3 months for them to even get a permit to begin to practice. And then they have to go through and get their CDL. And it's not just any CDL, they have to also get a passenger endorsement. There are different levels of commercial driver's
So
licenses.
this is a second-level CDL. It's actually difficult to get, and it's costly too, right?
It's a couple $1,000s from what I understand.
Yeah.
So any paper that you pick up, you see that there's a shortage nationwide, as you mentioned, for bus drivers or people with CDLs. I've been working on this for about a year.
Has anyone called you and asked you about this?
Nobody has called me directly, no. But I do have a lead. We'll talk about
I
it
mean,
when we.
has anybody called you and asked you, why is there no senior bus?
Nobody's asked me, no.
No one's asked you. So for folks listening at home, the way to find out information about this is to show up to these meetings and talk to us. All right? And so folks are watching right now on YouTube, I hope, or on Zoom. Nancy Malul is waiting for your phone calls. She's happy to talk to you about this. But complaining on Facebook just doesn't get it done. All it does is it spreads misinformation in town and gets people at each other's throats. So, thank you, Nancy.
That's actually, Scott, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was at the senior center, I think it was October 4th, the first week in October, and that was discussed. There must have been at least 70 or 80 seniors there that are members of the club. And that's one of the main topics we talked about. I explained to them the shortage of CDL, and they had some other concerns about what they wanted to expand the bus to. We had a nice conversation. So the senior center and the members that were there that day are all well aware of the situation and have been for at least a month, if not longer. So thank you for bringing that up.
And many thanks to, the various volunteers in town who go out for themselves and drive these folks around in the absence of a bus. I don't think we want to forget those people. And we've got a lot of wonderful volunteers in town that their names are never heard, but they do these things. So anyway, I just wanted to make a point on that.
Thank you, Scott. And Matt, I guess the one change, Nancy, that you referenced is that in the absence, until we can fill that role, the county has stepped up and is willing to provide transportation to shopping. I don't know, Matt, did you have that information when you spoke with
No,
them?
I didn't. Shane was there the other day. I think she was there this week, so
Yeah.
she might have. And they also, another concern, Scott brought up on Facebook, is, where's the senior? The senior bus is working. It's there. We just don't have anybody to drive it. So that was the other concern I think that I saw on social media, or somebody told me to.
Right, we actually, Al Gallo had it
Serviced.
tuned up and serviced over the summer when we thought that we had a driver. So it's
To be
ready
very
to go.
clear, I'd be happy to drive the senior bus. I can't, because I don't have a commercial driver license with an attachment to bring passengers around, nor do I have the time or money to take this license test. So, just so everybody's clear on that.
Right, and I am hopeful, like I said, we'll talk about it after this meeting in executive. So I am hopeful that there'll be some progress there
Thank you.
soon.
Nancy, thank you. I know you've been working on this. This has been
It's
a long road, and it got worse, right? It was hard in the beginning, and then it became darn near impossible, as I think some of the school routes had to be canceled because they couldn't find a driver.
That's right.
So, thank you, Scott. I appreciate your clarification on that. And Matt, thank you for updating the seniors. Nancy, I don't know if you were finished with your report.
No, I'm finished.
You're finished, okay. But I don't think you're finished. Item number 8, best practice inventory. Could I ask you to give some clarification on that?
Sure, this is a requirement from the state. It happens every year. It's a bunch of questions that we need to answer. This year, I think there were 50 or 60. About half of them counted for points. You have to get so many points in order to be able to get all of your state aid from the state. If you come under a certain number, then they will take a percentage of your state aid. We did not come close to that number. One of the only
Now, did
On-
not come close which way? Good way or bad way?
good way. We did not come close to losing any state aid.
So we stayed above the plimsoll line, so to
Right,
speak.
so let's say the number's 30 that you have to get your aid. We got like a 29.
That's
No,
good.
the other way around.
The other way around.
The other way around, sorry. Let's say you needed to get a 30, and the max you can get is 50, we got like a 49.
Ah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So we only got a couple points off. One of the points that we consistently get off, and it's in every audit, is because we have a small finance department, there's not as much of the oversight as they're looking for. But that happens in every small town, that doesn't have a lot of employees, and it's not really a detriment. So we're in good shape. We follow most of the best practices, and then the other questions were just for informational purposes, only for the state. So one of the requirements is that the governing body's supposed to discuss this, and we have to put the date onto the survey that it was discussed, and then you have to pass a resolution to adopt it.
Thank you, Nancy. Any questions, comments from the Township Committee? This is a resolution, not an ordinance, so Resolution 21-278. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
Is that one?
So moved.
Wait, wait.
Second.
Wait, which one is 268?
Yeah,
Oh.
270.
278.
270.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Versochia?
Yes, and Megan, I apologize. I wasn't sure where, between 278, 279, the three items there, fence ordinance, Millington Schoolhouse generator, parks, rules and regulations. Is that part of?
Those are all discussion items.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
So it's just not identified as that. Why, are we going to do discussion items before I proceed to 21-279?
You can, yeah. They're all discussion items, so one of them was the best practice inventory, one of them is the parks
Gotcha.
rules and regulations.
Okay.
So I just had if there was a resolution with that specific discussion
Understood.
item
So,
right underneath.
Jack, could you describe the fence ordinance?
Okay, I'll start.
I'm sorry. ma'am.
So this came to our attention because a resident came in and got a zoning permit to put up a fence. We don't have any requirements of how close you can put the fence to the street. It ended up that the fence is in a location on a corner lot where DPW always plows the snow, and corner lots always, get more than anybody else. The concern is that the fence is going to be damaged during every snowstorm. And so we were talking to the attorney about it, and he brought up a possible solution going forward, at least, for an ordinance that we could adopt. And Jack can pick it up from there.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I think just, we have the inherent right to remove things from the right-of-way if they present a safety hazard. But Burnersville had a similar problem 5 or 6 years ago, and they decided to put it in an ordinance just so they could point to it if people did put things in the right-of-way. I think it's a good idea, and what their ordinance says is that you can place things in the right-of-way, but if the police chief or his designee determines that it presents a safety hazard, then you have to remove it. And if you don't remove it, the town will,
At whose expense?
at your expense.
At the property owner's expense.
My concern is, I drove past there 4 times today, so I saw the fence, and the corner of it's literally like a foot from the street, the blacktop. My concern is more of, I don't think it's a vision issue because the fence is low, but my concern is more for the DPW, that inevitably, the plow's gonna hit it, snow's gonna get thrown up on it, and then we're gonna have to replace it 3 times a winter. That's my bigger concern. I'm not worried about being a sightline issue.
I think the concern here is that that they got a zoning permit to do it.
They did get a zoning permit to?
So, they got permission from the town to do it, so it'd be tough now. But
Right, because we don't have anything.
My concern was something else, and I know they got the zoning permit, but those are parking spaces there too. And so on the passenger side of the car, it's very difficult to get out of the car.
You're right.
So that's what prompted this discussion, that the person didn't do anything wrong, and neither did the town, because we don't have anything that regulates, you have to
Exactly.
keep it further away.
Yeah.
So it probably is something that you want to revisit. I don't know how it affects this particular homeowner. We can deal with that separately, but going forward, for
Understood.
anybody else,
There should be some kind of setback from the
Yeah.
curb.
yeah.
Now, this is something that we'll put on the agenda for,
Well, if you want to do it, we'll put it on the next.
no, I mean, this was an unusual circumstance. Matt's point is well taken, but they did have a permit from the town. I'm sorry. They did have a permit from the town, so we were kind of involved in what happened. But going forward, we would like to avoid this happening again. Is that
Right,
correct?
right, so the permit, if you do pass this, the permit will say you can only put the fence X amount of feet from
Curb.
The right away.
the curb, the right-of-way, however
Because
it is,
Matt's
from
point
the
is well
curb,
taken,
probably.
right?
from the curb.
Mailboxes get damaged all the time. Mailboxes by definition are close to the street.
Yeah, this is
But
low. It's
for
only
obvious
like
reasons,
24 inches high.
There's no reason for a fence to have to be that close.
Right.
We get the mailboxes being there, but not
yeah,
a fence.
everybody has things in the right-of-way.
Yeah, of course.
That's the issue. Al, how many feet back from the curb or the edge of the pavement would you suggest we require the fences to be? Or from the curb, not from the right-of-way, they'll be in the right-of-way. We don't have an objection to that, I don't think. Like I said, everybody's driveway, not everybody, but most people's driveways traverse the right-of-way. People have mailboxes in the right-of-way. But if it presents a problem like this, so I suggest we require fences to be so many feet back from the pavement. Or the curb.
At least 4 feet from the curb line.
Okay,
It's like somebody Scott said, it's a wall in the door, in the parking area.
yep, okay, I defer to you.
So in regard to this fence, right, I think the issue's been raised about snow plowing and us having to repair it. Does this change allow us to do something about this particular fence, or is this fence something we have to live with?
Well, I think we can go back to them, especially if it gets damaged the first time, and go to them and say, look, you know, we'll repair it, but it's got to be moved back 4 feet from the pavement. You know, we're not going to continue doing that. If you want to leave it there, it's at your own risk. You repair it.
It is a beautiful fence, and it has lights on the posts.
Yeah, it does look nice at night.
It's a really nice fence.
Just the wrong place.
Yeah.
Snowstorm.
All right.
Okay, we'll have that for the next meeting then.
So November 10th, Megan, I believe. Thank you. All right, the Millington Schoolhouse generator. Nancy, is that you or Jack? I mean, I
It
think
is.
it's you, right?
It's me. So, back when you, as a committee, decided that, at the time, the Emergency Management Office could move to the old schoolhouse, it was discussed that they would probably need a generator. It makes sense. Even if they weren't there, I would support a generator because it's a historic building and pipes freeze in the winter and, you know, and plus the fact that they do use it, it's listed as a warming or cooling center, so it should always have power and heat and electric. So they need a generator. Ordinarily, a zoning permit is required that requires 75 feet setbacks from any residence. Now, I know that we don't have to follow our own zoning requirements, but the fact is that usually it's 75 feet for safety and for, you know, for neighbors. At the schoolhouse, the setbacks are 34 feet from the side and 55 feet from the rear. So while it doesn't appear to be any kind of a safety issue because it will be far enough from the house, it will be closer to the neighbors' properties than our zoning code allows. So I just wanted you to consider authorizing putting it closer than our zoning ordinance allows.
Have we talked to the neighbors? Have we talked to the neighbors?
We have not.
Probably should do that.
Are we going to run into any difficulties just in that with the Morris County?
It's on the non-historic side,
It's another story.
so it doesn't impact the historic side.
Now, living there, I'll tell you, there's generators up and down the street. Right, I only live a few houses down from there, so it's probably not a big deal, but it's probably a courtesy at least to talk to the neighbors and just let them know what we're thinking of doing.
Okay, so then, do you want to wait and then come back on the 10th and talk about it again? Because
Would that give you enough time to reach out to the neighbors?
between now and the 10th, November 10th? Yes.
Okay.
So it really only impacts the neighbor on the, when you're facing the house to the left.
Right.
Okay.
And it's certainly quieter than if we were to purchase a portable generator.
Yeah, I'd actually suggested a portable generator because you know,
There's no zoning.
right, there are no zoning ordinances for that, but I was told by a lot of people that it is way louder than,
And I can,
the
I think we
permanent
all
one.
can confirm
Yeah,
that.
plus you need somebody to hook it up.
you need somebody to be there. So if the power goes out in the middle of the night, nobody's there to turn it on.
Right.
Good point. By the way, the generators like we have, do we have, and the reason it even comes up in my mind, we have a generator and we have an annual maintenance contract. The ones that are used for the town, whether here or elsewhere, do we have annual maintenance contracts on these things?
We do.
Okay,
They come and they test it every I think it's like twice a year.
And we would do the same, obviously, for this one if it were approved. Okay. Any comments, questions? We can move on. Parks rules and regulations, I'm assuming that's attached to 21-279?
Yes.
Okay, so, Jack, I mean, let me read it and then we can discuss it. Amending Township Parks rules and regulations to prohibit drones. Now, that's specific to Matthew G. Cantor Memorial Park, or is that
It's
all
all,
parks?
it's all the parks.
Okay.
This request came from Lisa Scanlon, the Recreation Director. She made it several years ago as well, and it didn't go anywhere. But I guess she's been receiving complaints from mothers with young children. So she asked that this be adopted using the language from the Berners Township park rules.
So, Jack, an obvious question I have is, are municipalities allowed to do this?
I did check that because I had the same question. I think we can prohibit, flying drones in the parks. If somebody lives across the street and is flying a drone across the park, I don't think we can do anything about that. But I think we can prohibit their use within the parks proper.
I have,
Okay.
well, two questions. One, does that apply to like the baseball and softball fields? Because say, for example, they want to do some photos or something. That, I don't know. And the other cutout is, I know like Officer Giresi and Rob Pavanik from the rescue squad, they use the drone. They're using, I think, like National Night Out and things like that to take pictures or videos of stuff. So I just know if there's a carve-out for that.
Well, there's a carve-out for governmental agencies, I see.
Okay.
Now, with respect to special events, I think they just ask for permission and, it
So-
could be granted.
So the way I understand it, the way this one came up, someone was at Sterling Lake
Yes.
flying a drone, and whether good intentions or not, was hovering over a family, and they were a little bit unnerved by that because they thought they were on camera. And it's kind of like an invasion of your space, an invasion of privacy.
Right.
Probably wasn't a good decision on the person flying the drone. Maybe they didn't mean any harm. Before we go too far with this, maybe consider you have to get a permit to fly them in our parks?
I defer to you guys. I mean, it's-
Actually, I mean, this, what we have, this resolution, I don't think solves that problem, right? Because I could be across the road, launch my drone, send it over, and do the exact same thing. So, here, as long as it's done safely, and we have a park, and it's a recreational thing, then why wouldn't you allow it, right? When you're not allowing it in order to prevent something which really is legal, I guess, right? It's a private.
That's
action,
right. And someone can abuse a drone on your street by flying it into your neighbor's yard and
Yep.
hovering above the backyard pool,
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
It's not right.
right. But and there are
But it's been
remedies.
preempted. We can't do anything about it.
Right, but there are other remedies, right, that you can pursue for
Right.
that. But I just don't see that
It-
that's
it-
something that we can
Hey,
get
I'm
involved in.
kind of tracking you on this because, maybe this is simple as putting a sign up or something. I don't know, we're solutioning it right now, but, how do you legislate good behavior?
Yeah, exactly, that's
Good taste.
exactly it.
But-
This doesn't do it. This doesn't solve the problem that we're supposed to be solving.
Yeah, the concern I have is the unintended consequence which Matt referenced. You have one of our rec programs that does it innocently. So you have an unintended consequence because by the rules, that can't happen. Now, Scott, you had said maybe you can get permission to do that. I don't know.
Can
Maybe
we tweak it? Maybe, can we, kind of tweak the wording? Because I did speak to Lisa at length when I was the rec liaison, and I did think that there was valid concerns. You have, imagine you have a bunch of athletes on the field, and you have somebody flying a drone there, and someone gets hit with the drone. There could be a significant injury. Like, in other words, if there's a way that we could promote responsible, you understand what I'm trying to say?
I
There's a lot
understand.
of reasons why.
Yeah.
She had really good valid points that I agreed with.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I think it's valid, but this doesn't help you. It absolutely doesn't help you because you can launch a drone from anywhere and be unsafe. But that's a whole different thing that we can't legislate, I don't think.
No, that's all been preempted. So as Brendan said earlier, if you live across the street, you could fly your drone over the park. There's nothing we can do about it.
So can we reword this potential ordinance?
I tend to agree with Brendan. I don't know how.
Yeah, I don't know,
how we
I don't know
solve
how
the
you can get
problem.
accurate wording on this.
Put up signs or something,
Right.
put up a sign like they suggested down there, maybe.
To encourage good behavior, like,
Yeah.
I think, Scott, like you said, I don't think the person meant anything, I'm assuming. But if there was maybe a sign, perhaps maybe what we could do is table this for tonight, and let's think about it, because I'm with Vic. I'd like to have something that we're encouraging good behavior, because sometimes people, it's not bad behavior, they don't know it.
Right, there could be significant injury if someone gets hit in the head with a drum.
But
That's
the
definitely-
same thing could happen with people, the same thing almost happens at Little League all the time with children throwing the ball on the sideline and while little kids are walking by. I mean, you can't legislate
Yeah.
accidents away like that necessarily.
Yes, the road to paved with good intentions. I mean, I like doing something, I just don't know, to Brendan's point, if this is it.
Passing a regulation is not the only path forward on this, right?
Yeah.
Having a sign,
Yeah.
having a permit, having a law, just talking about it here, so the folks, how many people in town own drones? A dozen?
Probably a lot more than that, but like somebody's creeping at the lake, then you just find them and charge them harassment or something, let them deal with it that way.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
there
an
are other ways
interesting
to do it.
question that you just said that. What happens if somebody is clearly being abusive and not in the spirit of it? Is that something that can be reported to the police?
Oh, sure. I mean, if you're being stalked by a drone, you can
Yeah.
go to the police just like if somebody's following you all the time.
Yelling
you
at
know,
you or doing anything.
Go in your house and sitting out front. You know,
Yeah, maybe, what I'm gonna suggest is let's think about this and try to figure out how to accomplish what it is we are trying to accomplish, but perhaps not with changing the regulation. That's not really
Right.
going to affect.
Yeah.
The thing that would
I mean-
accomplish this is people to be smart with how they fly their model planes.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Maybe Lisa can offer us some suggestions.
No, I mean, I think, really, I mean, I really think that I mean, apart from trying to encourage good behaviour, that's all we can do, because we can't change anything to legislate it, as far as I see. And so that's as far as we can go, because if you are being hassled by somebody with a drone, there's a number of other avenues for you to get redress of that problem. So us doing this is meaningless.
Yeah, it's a conundrum.
This is the second time the Township Committee's
I
briefed
think
us.
we're droning on and on too much about this.
All right, so we'll take no action tonight and
Yep.
and try to, maybe, Scott, that's right, Vic, you're not the rec liaison now. Maybe, Scott, you can discuss it with Lisa, and maybe I think it's something we want to do, we just don't know how to do it. We want to do something,
If we
but
could restrict it maybe in some kind of way, yeah.
I don't
Try to
know.
help prevent, help, promote safety.
We got do not litter signs, we got pick up after your dog signs. Now let's have a,
So a drone sign.
yeah, let's,
Respect your neighbor's privacy.
polite drone flying signs.
Suggested, please no drones, and we'll have a picture of Brendan,
The zombie state.
because that word can be used a couple of ways.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I like that.
All right, so let's move on. 21-280, approval of the 2022 train station parking fees. Did we change anything?
No, there's a discussion item. Megan was going to cover that.
So last year, due to COVID, there was a hit, obviously, with people not buying the parking passes. So we opened it up to do daily parking passes for Gillette and Sterling. We sold 71 for Gillette and 20 for Sterling at the $5 rate.
The entire year?
Yeah. So it came out to $455. We're down almost $50,000 in sales for the parking passes themselves.
How much? 50?
50.
50? Wow.
Half of that goes to NJ Transit, right?
No, we don't
No.
send any.
Oh,
I think we're the only town left who doesn't send them anything.
Oh, okay.
We
But-
have to use it for commuter-related services,
Correct.
but most towns will get at least 30% of the
Yeah, right.
revenue.
Correct.
Thank you, John.
Wondering if going forward, we want to continue doing the Gillette and Sterling lots as well. The Millington has the machine there, but the Gillette and Sterling one runs through the program that we have. Just opening it up to you guys to decide. I don't know if it's deterring people from buying the yearly pass if they use it 4 or 5 times, but it's just something to consider.
It doesn't seem, well, it's hard, right, to gauge this because 2020 and 2021 are unusual. We don't know what's gonna happen in 2022. We do know there's going to be some transition to a new normal, regardless of whether COVID goes away and we're back to normal. Normal's not gonna be what it was, so, any comments? My only thing is I'd rather just leave it as we have it and not tweak it
Yeah.
and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, do we have machines in
We do not,
Sterling?
we don't have the machines at Sterling or Gillette. What happens is the people have to make a request to the clerk's office through the online portal at least the day before. We go through the process of approving it. They pay the $5. They can either come in and not have to pay the service fee, because there is a $3 service fee on any credit card transaction. So,
What, can we put, how much is it to put machines? And,
I can look that up
Yeah, we should.
and
The machines are about $1,500 each. They were, well, that's what we paid several years ago, so
Right.
I'm sure they've gone up a bit. So I'm gonna guess like $2,000 each. And then there's a monthly
right,
fee that goes in, a maintenance fee, and then there's, if you want to accept credit cards, you have to put in Wi-Fi, and then there's a fee for that as well.
Maybe we would have more users.
yeah, I mean, that sounds terrible, you know, to have to go through all that.
Right, they'll
all the
probably just go to
steps.
Summit or Chatham.
Or just park and take the chance.
Well, what happens now, Chief, if somebody parks and doesn't have this permit? Well, maybe
they get a ticket.
they do get a ticket.
They do get a
Chief, is that true?
Officer discretion, you can.
See,
Oh, Ken.
can get a ticket, right? But you're taking a risk. You know, you may or may not. So
There's,
I like what Brendan, I think, is saying in the sense that let's put the machines in and plan for where we're going, not where we are today.
Exactly.
there's not a way to do this on the internet with a smartphone?
Like some of those parking apps.
Yeah.
I wonder if you have to put a
Have
sign
we,
up
have
that
we
they go
researched
with
that?
Yeah, I can definitely look
That's
into
not
that.
a bad idea, because then you just go to an app and do it like you do in parking.
Yeah.
Right, and then we can, if it works, you get rid of all the machines and save the
Parkmobile.
money.
In fact, that is what Chatham, if you want, Chatham has done it that way for a long time.
They have an app.
They have an app.
I'll take a look
Parkmobile, I
into
think, is
that.
theirs, or Park something.
That's a good idea.
I mean, who knows, maybe someone's figured out a way to put a QC code on every space. You take a picture of your space and you enter in your time, boom.
Well, whatever, but in the meantime, I think a lot of people are used to that app, and so. I
Well,
don't-
we opted against that the last time
Why?
in Millington. At the time, I mean, you have to paint all the spaces, and then maybe the police chief can talk about this, because there was an issue, I don't remember the details, this has gone back probably 4 years. I think, I don't remember, I don't remember. I mean, it might have been something to do with a credit card, license reader, I don't remember what it was, but we can revisit it. We did
And it is
look at
true in
some-
Chatham, I thought this is where you were going. In Chatham, you have to have spots that are available. It's not like you can just park anywhere. So Chatham has certain ones, right, Matt?
Designated area?
I don't know, it's gotta be.
Chatham
numbered
has
something.
numbered
Yeah.
spots
And you have
for,
to know if they're full or not.
yeah.
They should.
Well, you have to have numbered spots because they correspond to you put the number in when you, on your app or on the machine. You have to have a machine there.
Yeah. All right, well, in the meantime, you just want to approve the fees, right? We're not going to change anything there.
I
Well,
have a
that
quick
and-
question.
Sure.
Of course, I
Victor.
have to come out of left field. What are these fees based on? In other words, is this what is it, do we have to charge these fees by regulation, or, because to me, in other words, I'm sure all the people who park there are gonna just love this, but it's $1 a day. Isn't it a little cheap?
No, it's $5, isn't it?
No, it's not.
No, in other words, $240 for
For
a
the
year is
year.
$1 a day.
It's a service for residents, that's why.
Yeah.
but at that rate, are we even covering the cost to maintain it, blacktop it, plow it, and are we losing money? And
No,
is it,
That fund was flush.
Yeah, we're not losing money.
but how about now with the downtrend?
Well, I mean, I think it would take several years of that kind of a loss in order for us to realize that, a problem in that fund.
Okay, and I would just ask, what are they charging in surrounding towns compared to this rate? Do we have any idea?
I think we're low.
I think we are low.
But not that low.
I don't think we're that low, and based off of the, like you said, downtrend of people buying the parking passes, I think if we hike up the passes, nobody's gonna be buying them.
Okay,
Yeah, and again, we just hopefully in 2022 get back to relative normal. So my suggestion is not to do anything different, other than maybe add the machines or the
Well,
app.
we can get back to you with the
Okay,
app,
all right,
the
so
big-
what do you need from us? Do you
There was
want?
also a question about the online.
Yeah. So the one other question is primarily the parking passes have been sold in person. Last year, we did basically 100% virtual application process, which came out really successful for the people that were buying them. Wanted to know if you guys wanted to go back to an in-person application process or the online.
I defer to you, you're the one that has to
The
deal with it.
online was a lot better.
It's easier for everybody, don't have to get in
Yes.
line or anything.
Right.
Okay.
One of the good things that came out of COVID, right, we've learned how to do certain things remotely. All right, so do you need a motion you'd like this approved this evening, not wait for the Parkmobile and the other stuff, right?
Well, if Committeeman Verleza wanted rates for other municipalities, I can look into that and,
more for curiosity and maybe for consideration in the future, not to, to affect the vote tonight.
okay.
Okay, so with that said, looking for a motion to approve 21-280, approval of the 2022 train station parking fees.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. Okay, so the next item is emergency purchasing follow-up. That's 21-268, establishing procedure for determining that emergency purchasing may be implemented. I saw Jack move, so I think Jack is the one that's going to explain this.
Yes, the emergency purchasing statute has a provision in it that says the governing body shall adopt rules or regulations to ensure that there is a procedure for determining and confirming the existence of an emergency, and that the provisions for emergency purchasing may be implemented. Such rules or regulations shall include such provisions that ensure that if initially designated individuals are not available, there is a designated chain of command to ensure that there are always appropriate individuals available to make such decisions. Now, this is not to declare a state of emergency. That falls to the emergency management coordinator. This is just if emergency repairs or whatever have to be done, an individual is designated. We may have had such a resolution in the past, I don't remember. I don't recall our ever making emergency purchases before. But in any event, we need to fill that gap now. During Ida, Brendan stepped in and performed that role, but I do think we should formalize it. At the last meeting, there was a disagreement among members of the Township Committee as to whether that should be the mayor and members of the governing body, or whether it should be the administrator and the QPA. So, that's a policy decision for all of you to make.
I'll still, like I said before, you pay an OEM coordinator, we pay an administrator, we pay a CFO, and they're the ones that have to deal with this. And again, we have, thank you. We are, like I said, volunteer board, who knows where we are when they need us, but these people are on the payroll and available to make these decisions, that's why we pay them. So I would ask to move it out of the realm of the elected officials and into the professionals that we have at Town Hall to make these decisions. Thank you.
I would say leave it as is, because whenever you have employees or you have volunteers who really don't, whether they feel they have much say or whether they do, it's very, very difficult to make this kind of decision. And so I think it falls to it absolutely falls to the elected officials to make this determination and then push it forward. We meet generally on a fairly regular basis, and we communicate with one another. We have the ability to communicate with one another, and so we never act alone. And you know, if that's the problem here. It should fall to the elected official, as far as I'm concerned. That's what we're elected to run the town. And if something happens, whether it be in DPW, whether it be in PD, one of us is generally in tune with what's going on there, and more so than anybody else in the township. And so that's why it should fall with us. And also, the last thing I'll say is that if there's an emergency and you leave it with an employee of the town who is kind of unsure whether, you know, because of whatever reasons, right? It could be that there's it could be that they don't feel comfortable making the decision, because it's a fairly momentous decision whenever you say there's an emergency. If you leave it to such an individual, and there's an emergency that isn't absolutely addressed, nobody looks to the township employee for blame or redress. It comes to the elected official. Our necks are on the block here, and therefore we should have the ability to make this designation more than an employee or a volunteer. We have more at stake.
Yeah, I agree with you, and by definition of what we talked about earlier, the executive power resides with the committee. We don't want a situation where a township employee says, I don't know if I want to do this, this is above my pay grade. They're probably coming to us anyway, right? And so all this does is it makes it very clear. Secondly, I can't think of a single instance where any of us would be outside of electronic communication with each other to confer on this. So, you know, I don't see this as being a big deal. I see this as being a formalization of what really is and should be anyway.
Vic, Sam?
I feel the same way.
And if we needed to have, a special meeting, we can organize it, we can do it virtually, we can do it almost, maybe not as a drop of a hat, I guess a special meeting, we would have to notice that, right, so.
But you can't have an emergency meeting without notice.
Without notice?
Right.
Okay.
That would be an emergency.
Then I'm fine. Matt, I understand your concerns, but we need a motion to pass this, right? 21-268?
Motion to pass 21-268.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey.
No.
Committeeman Lavender.
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray.
Yes.
Mayor
and I-
Paserchia.
Yes, and I heard Matt laughing over there, because I was about to say, he's become Cornell. Yeah, you know where I was going.
Waiting for it.
Cornell, too, right? Old business, new business.
I have something, I guess, for new business. I think I've talked to many of us individually in this, but it's a concern that I have, and I think it's something that we need to discuss as a committee. We all love our volunteers. I know everybody up here does, but I have an instance here where we. I think it's a policy decision on one hand about budget allocation, and then also just how our volunteers are treated. So it all the fire company, and I'm only talking about Millington here, Millington Fire Company. The budget is very easy to comprehend. The fire company is given $45,000, and with that we keep the lights on, and we pay for training, and we pay for equipment. We are able to keep track of that $45,000, and we can and we have and can do provide details of how it's spent. We come to the town every year, and we ask for vehicle maintenance, and we ask for usually items of special equipment. And the equipment is usually, you know, special items that we've costed out, and that's what we ask in the budget, and if they're approved by this committee or they're not. The vehicle maintenance has always been an issue. Certainly, and again, I'm talking about Millington. We have a 30-some-year-old truck that we are keeping on the road, and we have to. We are currently looking for a new truck, but you know, with the way things are going, that is probably not going to be delivered until sometime in 2023. And so, we nevertheless have a frontline piece of equipment that we need to.
How old is that truck?
It's coming up 30 years, I think.
30 years.
Yeah. So every year, certainly in my experience, the budget for our fleet maintenance we usually run out of it. And this year we ran out of it very early because we had some big bills to pay. So it's probably sometime in March or April. The budget, I went to our finance department, the CFO, and at that time, we were told that accommodations were being made, and we would have the money. And normally, this is what happens, right? Whenever we're all a big happy family, these things happen. Budget money gets moved around, and we never have an issue. This is the first time I've ever come to the committee with this. And as I say, we have run out of money in the past when it comes to vehicle maintenance. So this happened in April or May. It was all fine. We have had several bills that we've had to pay on vehicle maintenance. And you know, these are not vehicles that we use to joyride. These are vehicles that are used whenever we're on calls. We only use them for town business. That's it. So this came to pass. The reason I'm talking is because I was told I submitted a bill. It was a fairly small bill for brakes, and I was told that Millington had run out of money, and we should therefore pay for it all by ourselves. So, with the $45,000 that the town gives us to keep the lights on, we spend it. The rest of what we do is fundraising. And so, I have two questions for the committee. One is this how you want us to? Is this how you want us to run the fire company? That the town allocates a certain amount of money, and then we have to fundraise to keep these vehicles on the road and to maintain the response for the residents. And the second is the attitude of the I guess the finance department in the way that it was communicated to me. I'm a volunteer. I don't have any particular expertise in finance. You can ask my wife about that. And it's not my full-time. I have a full-time job, and so I expect that whenever I approach as a volunteer, not as a member of this of the committee, I expect that whenever we have people in any position within this township, that as a volunteer, whenever I approach them, they give me the benefit of their experience and their expertise because that's their job. Now, because I've been around, I know that money gets transferred in November. That was not mentioned. Nothing was mentioned to me. And so I was left with pay it or wait until next year. And for me, that was just simply inappropriate. And so that's the second part of it. It's like whenever we're dealing with our volunteers, and we love our volunteers, and we want to encourage volunteerism, whenever they interact with any member, or a paid member of our administration, they should be given the leeway and the advice to make things happen, not just given ultimatums. Because it's right now that the situation that exists is totally unacceptable. And that's why I'm bringing it to this committee. In the past, I've been able to iron these things out, but as I say, that's whenever we're all working together. I didn't do that this time because, quite frankly, I think I walk a fine line between as a volunteer, as a president of the fire company, and a township committee man, that somehow I'm abusing my position whenever I talk to whenever I have any differences with township employees about what should happen. It's happened in the past here, and I don't want to fall into that trap, and that's why I'm bringing it to the committee, because it's a policy decision. I just want to hear it from the five of us. As I said, I've talked individually to various members, and I'd like to have a policy. Do you want us to have a certain amount of money and then fundraise, or do we have the ability to work with our finance group? And in general, just for volunteers, given my experience, I'd like to have volunteers be given the benefit of expertise by our township officials, because that was not accorded to me.
Yeah, can I ask a question? So your annual budget, you said, is 45,000, is that right?
Correct. No, that's the allocation.
The allocation?
Yeah.
And so what was the?
No, you can.
We can.
Yeah.
Hold on.
It's been raised to at least 150.
What was the allocation last year?
75 apiece, though.
It's $45,000.
And what was the allocation 2 years ago?
It's always been $45,000.
Okay, so
for
it's
long.
always been 45,000, yet the cost of goods has gone up about 2 to 3% every year.
Yeah.
So are you underfunded?
I think, I think we could certainly. The law has caps. It was capped at $90,000, and it was simply half and given to Millington and half to Sterling. Certainly, things have gone up, and yeah, it would be good, because it's been that way for a long time.
So by law, we're capped
45K.
for 90 for
Yeah.
both.
The law was changed in 2015. It now goes up to 150, which is adjusted annually by the state, and I'm not sure how much it's been adjusted since that.
So we are underfunded.
Yeah.
Well,
We can't get
well,
more.
yeah, I wouldn't qualify, and I
Yeah.
don't think you would either.
Yeah, I mean, I think we survive on what we have, supplemented by our by the fundraising that we do. But
But my point is this, the cost of things go up. A brake job this year is more expensive than it was last year.
Two different line items.
There's
One-
two different
One is the
line items.
maintenance, and one is the allocation.
No,
that
I
we're
understand,
generating.
but that's not my point. My point is, it costs more this year to do stuff than it did last year. Agree? Agree.
Agree. Yep.
Right?
Especially on an aging fleet.
Okay, so this year, for 45,000, how far are you over this year?
No, the 45,000 is what we're given for things, just to kind of keep the lights on, to pay for training, pay for equipment that we might want to buy for ourselves, if new Halligans or whatever it might be, ladders. One just recently failed a test, and so we're looking to purchase another. So that's the kind of thing that 45K is used for. The other things are actual line items where we have we actually have money that's set aside specifically for vehicle maintenance. Now, basically, there's never enough money put there, and as I say, normally we can kind of work it out. This year we did, and suddenly we didn't. We weren't able to work it out anymore, and I'm left with a bill, and I'm left with an engine in addition to the truck that I need to get some kind of maintenance done on it to keep it going for the year. But here, basically we have to pay for it ourselves. That's what I've been told. Pay for it yourself, or don't pay it. Right?
Does Sterling have the same problem, Al?
I can't speak for this year,
Do you have a 30-year-old truck?
20-something-year-old, 26-year-old truck.
So what you're saying is you could get into a situation as well, just like Brendan did, where you've got an unexpected expense, right?
Yeah, that can happen more.
Right.
So we have two things. One, you've got a couple of bills. You've got the $800 bill for the break and whatever else you've got coming up. We need to address it. Fortunately, we're, a few days away from November 1st. We could probably find the money that way. The bigger question is, how do we proceed going forward in terms of, I think if I heard you correctly, you just want to have the ability for people at Town Hall who are more learned in this area to guide you through how to do it.
Well, actually, it's not so much guide me, because I don't need guidance, right? I really don't need guidance, and to say that, I know it's been said that we just don't, Millington doesn't know how to allocate his budget or to do anything with his budget. It's not the case. I described the simplicity of that budget. It's $45,000 from the town for other stuff, and then it's a bunch of line items. It's vehicle maintenance,
Capital.
and then there's capital, right? That's it. It's that simple. And we always have a problem because we're underfunded when it comes to vehicle maintenance. And as I say, normally we can get it sorted out, but lately, just within the last month, it hasn't happened. And so,
Gotcha.
Rather than, I absolutely do want, as a volunteer with, I want to have the ability to have our experts here at Town Hall work with us. And as a township committee person, I want to have our experts work with our volunteers, because we all know it's harder and harder to get volunteers. And so that is absolutely what I want. I want it to be a policy that's what we do. But I want this sorted out this year, and then also I want it sorted out in years to come, so that whether it's Stirling or Millington, we're not stuck fighting with or having a tussle with the township administration over this type of issue, which is it's patently unfair. Like, why do we have to do it?
And to be fair, I don't think you're asking for any action item tonight. You're just explaining the situation. Is there something that we can do tonight?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would hope so, right? I mean, I don't know if it requires a lot of deliberation. It's just a matter of policy decision. Township officials being treated the way I was is unacceptable for any volunteer. And as a policy with our fire department, with both companies in our fire department, let's just give the money that they need and allocate it up front that they need in order to keep their vehicles on the road. That's it. And to me, those are things that are fairly straightforward and fairly obvious that we should be able to at least opine on tonight and see what we need to do in order to make it happen.
And I think vehicle maintenance, I mean, that's crucial. Like, you could be putting, volunteers and members of our community's lives at risk if you don't have proper vehicle maintenance. And I'm all for spending money wisely and trying to adhere to, proper budgets, but obviously with an aging fleet, it's not always possible, and with costs, rising every year to repair them, I mean, to skimp on something like that, I think is awful.
All right, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I feel Brendan's pain on this one. I'll meet in the middle and say that we need some sort of some system of governance to handle these type of escalations, because that's what this is. It's an escalation to an exception. An exception to me sounds like it's warranted. Would we want to hear a little bit more about what's going on? Absolutely sure. But what it sounds like it sounds like you went to get this resolved and you felt stonewalled. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, exactly. Because it was presented to me as Millington pay for it, and also any other bills that come up because we've run out of money.
Was there any complaint about how you've represented the fire company's financial situation?
Not that I know of, no. No, I mean, it's very simple. It's vehicle maintenance. It should be paid by the town as far as I'm concerned. And this time it's not. And, you know, we do have the ability to move money around.
So the process should have been, this is above and beyond, it's an unusual expense, it should have come to us, we should have gotten all the facts, we should have heard them, we should have made a decision, and then boom, bill paid. Or not.
No, it should, I mean, basically, this was an issue, it was a vehicle maintenance issue, right? We had to get it done. Therefore, we submitted it, or we just take the vehicle off the road, right? And
So the work was done already, and you had an invoice and a paid bill in hand.
Right, exactly, because when it comes to vehicle maintenance, right, we either, like I said, we maintain the vehicles, we keep them on the road, we make sure they're safe for.
And which
for
vehicle was this?
This was the command vehicle, the chief's truck. It was a brake issue that we got fixed. But we either keep it on the road or we take it off. And if we take it off, when residents dial 911, we can call them back and say, sorry, that vehicle's not working. Maybe you can go to another town and maybe get one of theirs. That's the situation we're in. It's a matter of we pay for the maintenance of our vehicles. We have to. And so as long as I'm not putting in, you know, quadraphonic speakers or whatever, then they should be paid.
Would it be fair at the time when the expense was about to be incurred to give a heads up to folks, or was there?
But, see, now we're getting into like process, right? And the thing is that the process is a lot different from the actual payment or not payment.
Yeah.
Now, the process is that a lot of the time, if we want to get into that detail, right, it's basically a fiction, because whenever things get sent in to get repaired, they get repaired quickly. Otherwise, you're out for days, right? Now, you're supposed to put in, get an estimate, and then a PO is cut. And usually the repairs are done, and then the repair shops will kind of do that. They'll do it backwards, right? So it's a fiction, but nevertheless, that certainly is a process, and sometimes it happens, and other times it doesn't. It really just depends on the timing of it and who you're dealing with the repair shop. That's the truth of it. In any audits, I've never seen us get dinged on it. It's never an audit issue. But that quite apart from that's apart from what I'm actually saying. Because if I went through that process and said, oh, I need to have a PO cut, it would be the exact same thing. You don't have any money left. You don't do it, or you pay for it. And that to me is unacceptable, right? Because as a policy issue, we should be paying for the maintenance of our emergency response apparatus. That's what we should be doing. And if we're not, if that's a policy that we're not doing that, okay, let's get it out in the open.
You see, to me, I think that's a failure of the escalation process, because a no and go back home really should be, no, you're over budget, but this situation requires going to the committee and getting consent, or something like that. Pretty well, right?
Well, no, I mean, the thing is, right, that I shouldn't have an issue with a fire truck, right, and then be told you're over budget, and then have to wait to a committee meeting and then come to the committee and say, please, could you give me some money because I need to have this repaired? That's
my only question.
Well, I didn't think I said have the repair. I said get the repair paid for. So
Look, I think I speak for the entire committee. We want our emergency vehicles to be maintained.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
So I don't think that's the issue. The only issue I would have, and I don't know if it's an issue, we have to make sure there's a mechanism to get that
Process.
money transferred from one to the other. Now, Jack said, one matter we could do that, it appears that the total has been raised to 150 as opposed to 90. Now, that doesn't mean we have to do 75 per company in the beginning of the year, but what we do have the ability, I think, Jack, is to move money, we just have to have the money somewhere.
Yes, we can transfer, as you said at the next meeting,
Right.
additional money to the fire companies,
so
because
I-
we're not at the cap anymore.
I
We
want
used
to
to be at the
clear.
cap.
I think everybody here agrees with me.
Right.
The vehicles must be maintained, period. Right. So whatever the process is to get that money transferred in to pay for it we'll figure it out. Fortunately, it's November, so that should not be a challenge. I think your frustration is, it would have been nice if it had been said to you, we're near November.
Right, because, you know, we should have,
Right.
there should be the working relationship amongst our township.
I understand.
Right, where as a volunteer, you're helped along. You're not saying, this is a rule, you're screwed, which is essentially what happened here. And so, on behalf of volunteers everywhere, not just in Millington, that's what I want whenever I work with our.
Right,
with
Matt,
our
I don't want to
township
put words in your mouth. I think Scott,
reasonable
that's the
process.
play. I mean,
I don't know what the process to begin with. I don't know what the town pays for as opposed to what the fire department's supposed to pay for. So I can't opine on it because I don't know the answer to that. I don't know who's the truck either. Obviously, I don't know if the fire department owns the town owns. You know, in Sterling, that the town doesn't own all the truck, don't like command vehicles, I don't think, but they know we own the truck. I don't know.
Yeah, no, but again, you know, I think the whole issue over ownership, right? Because then we're kind of like digging down into the nitty-gritty of the legal part of it to say, well, you know, you own it, we don't own it. We don't use these trucks for anything else other than town business, other than emergency service, right?
Unlike some other person who's using the truck for unauthorized
Yeah,
reasons.
but this goes beyond it was brought to the head by the command vehicle issue, right? But it goes to the engine, it goes to the truck, and as I say, these are vehicles that, you know, they mysteriously spring leaks. They have to be repaired.
yeah, look, Brendan, again, I think I speak for the committee. The vehicles that are used, regardless of who owns them, need to be maintained.
Yep.
And the relationship, we'll work on that, but I don't think you're getting any pushback. I think your point is well made and well received. How's that?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any old or new business?
Oh, yeah, Al just reminded me, they started work on Meadowview. The emergency repair work that one of our local contractors was nice enough to jump in and help on. So that starts, gonna be about 2 weeks, Al? Yeah, weather permitting, 2 weeks, they'll fix the problem on Meadowview. And another thing, I got a
Thanks, Al.
call, actually Megan left me a letter today from the Investors Foundation. About 2 or 3 years ago, investors gave us, I believe, was it $10,000? We got a grant from Investors Bank to help equip the new sound and audio system in here. So they sent us a check in 4 years in a row. So they just sent us, I don't know if it was check 3 or 4, but thank investors because now we have the much needed upgraded system, and Scott can testify how much money that costs and everything else, and how much better it is for the residents. And now we can access things online, or people can call in that aren't here, and they have better quality sound and picture. So thank you,
And this was a
investors.
grant from Investors?
Yeah, they gave us $10,000 total. So all that money was used to do the project in here to help out with the meetings and broadcasting, so thank you.
Thank you, Matt. All right, any other? Okay, so let's go into the announcements. Starting October 24th, which means 3 days ago, you must dial the area code for all calls. Is that all call? I thought it was certain areas. It's for all calls, the area code?
That was directly what you sent me.
Okay.
So it said all calls.
All right. And importantly, this change supports 988 as the new 3-digit code to reach the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. You can visit verizon.com/988 for more information. But the important thing to announce tonight is 988 is the new 3-digit code to reach the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. We talked about this last meeting or the meeting before. This has become almost epidemic in this country. Certainly triggered by COVID. So please, anybody who's out there, 988 is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Election Day, if you don't know, is November 2nd. Polling stations, and that's the normal polling stations, right, Megan? I know it got a little confusing over the last year, but polling locations in town will be open 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Early voting started on October 23rd and will go through October 31st. There are 7 locations in Morris County, but the one that matters to the residents of Long Hill is in Madison. You can go and vote on the machine Thursdays through Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Do we know the exact address of the one in Madison?
Yes, give me 2 seconds.
I'm sure you can go onto the Morris County Clerk's office and see it.
Our website has it as well. It's 28 Walnut Street in Madison.
28 Walnut Street if you want to vote early, or of course, vote on November 2nd. I checked the weather. The weather's going to be beautiful. Please, you know, it's a privilege, but I also think something that everybody should do. Please remember to vote. October 31st, for those who don't, well, October 30th is Mischief Night, and for those who grew up in New Jersey, you should know what that means.
What's your address, Mayor?
Speaking of Mr. Mischief. So Mischief Night is October 30th. October 31st, Halloween. Please, we'll have a lot of ghouls and gremlins and unicorns and princesses walking throughout the streets. Please drive slowly and very carefully and protect our young children. Any other, did we miss any? Matt, you usually have something.
No, I said about that. Oh, did you mention the voting box that's still out there?
Oh, the vote, that's right.
Yeah.
Megan, that's still,
Well, you would have had to submit a request for a vote by mail ballot by yesterday. So if you received your vote by mail ballot, you can deposit it in the Long Hill Township drop box. They will not be accepting them at the polling locations on November 2nd. So the only way that you can do the vote by mail is either putting it in your mailbox or putting it in the drop box.
thank you. And we don't have any reason to think that Dropbox will ever be removed. We haven't been notified of that.
No.
It appears it'll stay there in perpetuity. All right, and please only put vote by mail envelopes in that box.
Yeah, I have an announcement.
Sure, fire away.
So the Boy Scouts will be collecting food to replenish the pantries of St. Vincent's and All Saints, and this is a real big food drive every year. Flyers for that will be going out, I think the first weekend in November. So keep an eye out for that, and then a week later, the Boy Scouts will come back and pick up the bags. So if you have anything that you can share with the needy, please do. We like to do this before Thanksgiving, so that less fortunate families can have a nice Thanksgiving and a good meal.
Thank you. And Megan, have we been notified by the library, Friends of the Library? They were going to have shredding day on the trunk or treat, and they moved it. And
It's
First weekend, isn't it?
no, well, it's November 6th. So
It is
next
November
Saturday.
6th, okay.
Next Saturday.
so you didn't miss it. It was going to be on Trunk or Treat Day, and they very kindly thought that might conflict, so they moved it to November 6th. That's the shredding day. It's a big fundraiser for the library, so please bring all your documents. Brendan, I know that's how you like to get rid of some of the incriminating documents that you collect over the year. All right.
I have one more
Oh, sure.
announcement. This is, it caught my eye because it was very apropos to some of the things that we've discussed. There's a presentation, and it's online at the library on November 4th between 7 and 8 p.m. and it's been given by Dorothy Smallin, and it's called Invasive Plants You Need to Know. And so I think that's, as I say, it's very topical, and I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
Thank you, Brendan. Okay, and the next meeting, of course, is November 10th. I know we got a little bit, we changed it up a little bit in October, but the next Township Committee meeting is November 10th. And am I right in saying, we have 2 meetings in November, right?
One,
November 10th's the only one.
correct.
All right,
Because
The
of
league.
the
The league
league.
and then Thanksgiving.
okay, so November 10th is the only meeting in November. I'm glad I thought of this. But
And
there
then-
are 2 meetings in December.
Correct.
Okay.
But is that one of them the 28th meeting? So we actually have one?
No, I
oh,
think there are 2 real
real
meetings in December.
There's
December.
2 real meetings, but the one is at 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah, so
Oh, okay.
we only have one real meeting, right? I mean, that's because the 8:30 in the morning one's just a kind of like, not very limited agenda.
Close
but-
out the business.
Yeah,
for the
but we
year.
have one, so we actually have 2 real
Understood.
meetings for the rest of the year. Wow.
But we can't adopt, it's a meeting, so we can't
Right.
adopt ordinances and do
Oh, yeah,
whatever needs
yeah.
to be done, but it's.
But we
Right.
usually get
Usually
complaints
shorter
if we do that, we get complaints.
All right, so please, if any member of the public has things they'd like to say to Committee, Deputy Mayor Ray in person, please come on November 10th. ShopRite has a big supply of eggs. It's in keeping with the mischief night theme. All right, so item number 11, meetings open to the public, remarks, statements pertaining to any matter, please, if you could, although it's not that many people here. So maybe we would be a little lenient on the 3 minutes. But in either case, comments, questions from any member of the public, and we will get to those at home after we visit. Absolutely, sir. If you could, please, you know the drill, state your name and address.
Does this come off here? Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Good evening. or
Good evening.
night. My name is Richard Kortman, Kortmann, and I live on Greenwood Drive in Millington. I've been here 57 years, so I know a little bit about the town, and many years ago, I was on the local Board of Education, so this meeting kind of reminds me of that. Our meetings went to midnight and later at times with lots of banter back and forth, especially during budget time. I'm here tonight, before I get into it, I want to have you keep in mind two items. One item is that the wheel that squeaks gets oil. The second item is that we need customer service. Keep customer service in mind, okay? And when you were talking a minute ago, it reminded me about the time I was at the Board of Education. Our job was not to run the schools, but to see to it that they were run well. Now, your job as an unpaid committee is not to run the town, but to see to it that it's run well. Okay, why am I here? I'm here because of the open air storm water channels we have in this town. They're not maintained. They haven't been maintained for almost as long as I've been here. 2 public works administrators ago, I talked with him and I told him that the dirt on the channel on the culvert by Greenwood Drive, the dirt was falling into the channel and that it was going to block the channel one of these days. Well, it took about 2 or 3 years and a number of phone calls and a little nudging, and eventually he got around to doing something and he put in a screen cage with big rocks in there to hold everything back. I invite anybody here to go out and look at it today, and you'll see all the rocks and everything are all into the channel again. All right, it's deteriorating. That was 2 public works administrators ago. 1 public administrator ago, I talked with him a number of times, and his complaint usually was, I'm short of manpower, I got so many jobs to do, I can't get around to it. And I could probably get that channel cleaned, at least by you. If I could get a little equipment in there, I'd get it done in half a day or less. But it's not just my channel, you got a lot of channel to worry about. So then months and months go by, and I'm kind of slow. He told me, then he told me that I can't get machinery in there because the township engineer tells me he can't use machinery in there. Okay? I said, okay. So months and months later, I finally got to the township engineer, and I go to the engineer, and I tell him the problem. I say that something needs to be done, and he said to me, "Well, you'd have to go to the EPA in Morristown, and you'd have to get the DEP involved because that's a low area, and if you have any cattails there, it can't get done." It was just. He says, I don't know what we can do about it. And that was his excuse. So nothing happened. And obviously that didn't leave me very happy because his customer service wasn't very good. He wasn't trying to get something done for me. Customer service means, how can I help you? How can I solve your problem? This is a township problem. It's not just my problem. Then, after maybe a year went by, and I said, I think I'll call up one of the committeemen responsible for the channels in that area. And that was, I hate to do this.
I remember.
You remember? He's a good guy, nice guy, came over. I talked to him over the phone. He came over, and I showed him the channel, and he looked at the channel, and he said, "Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's not too good." Well, let me take it back. And I told him about the problem with the engineer and what have you. And he said, I understand. So I said, okay, let's see what he can do. About a month or two later, he even sent me an email and said, "Don't worry, Mr. Cortman. We'll remember you. I remember you. We'll get something done." That was 2 years ago. All right? Now, my wife keeps nagging me about this, and she says, "When are you going to go to the committee?"
That's why you're here tonight, isn't it?
All right, when are you going to go to the committee? Right? So tonight was the night, because this afternoon I talked to the neighbor's guy who was doing the landscaping and putting leaves into the channel, all right? And I had tell him, I said, you shouldn't be doing that. And he gave me a big song and dance or what have you. Now look, I have cleaned that my area of the two. I have two pieces there that I have to clean. I put on my high rubber boots. I go in there once or twice a year. I take out the twigs and the stuff that's in there. I clean it up, put it in a pile with my other debris, and give it to Raymond, and he takes it away to the dump, and I pay him for it. Okay, but I'm getting old. I'm 87.
Hey, God bless you.
All right. And I think I could still do it, but I'm getting tired doing it. And I think there should be a maintenance, regular maintenance to do that. And, yes, another thing I forgot to tell you. A couple of weeks ago, I saw a guy going out there looking down the drainage, the storm drainage. He was looking down the pipes, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing? You're looking at something? What are you? Is there anything I can help you with?" He says, "Well, the town hired me to review the stormwater drainage system." Now, evidently, you have somebody that you've hired to look at it, to see what can be done, to see how good it is, how bad it is, how well it can be, and what have you. But I know this.
New Jersey American Water.
I know this. Looking just down the drain is not looking at the entire system. And I told the man that was there, a nice fellow, I talked to him, I said, you really should walk down from Shannon Drive into Sterling and take a look and see how much debris is falling in from the trees on both sides and falling into the channel. He didn't. He wasn't walking down there. He was looking into the drain. And I don't know whether they ever did that whether they walked anywhere, because you have a lot of it. A lot of that drain goes by the railroad. It goes way back on Northfield. It's a big system. And it's a good system. I think the EPA says the open-air channel system is the best system you can have because it's good for the environment. The animals have the water, and I like it. I get a great blue heron in my backyard. I get animals there. It's fine. But it's got to be maintained, folks. And it isn't.
So can I just say one thing? I looked over at the administrator. We're not sure we hired anybody to do it.
No,
I
we
don't
didn't
know that
hire, we didn't hire anybody. I believe probably who you saw, New Jersey American Water has consultants.
I talked to them too. That was another crew, and he said they were only looking at the sewer pipes.
Right.
And I said, well, this fellow was not looking at the sewer pipes. He was looking at the storm drain pipes.
Well, we haven't hired
He
anybody.
wasn't a JCPL guy or American Water.
American
He was
Water,
not.
right.
So
We have not.
That's
we don't
what he
have any.
told me. So I thought I'd relay it to you, and I said, well, okay, maybe they're doing something to look at it. But in any case, I feel that, number one, customer service wasn't very good because everybody I went to had a problem of some kind or another, and they were not really there to help me solve my need, which was to get this thing cleaned up on a regular basis. The township engineer you had, he really turned me off because he just gave me the EPA story, and I could probably go to the EPA in Morristown and show that you can use machinery because it's not in the Great Swamp. It's your job to keep that open. It's a storm drain system.
Now, we have your address.
You sure do. He's got my address, my
on
email,
Greenwood.
my phone number. He's got, I shouldn't shout.
Is this back up in your backyard?
Along the side yard, isn't it?
Is this,
Yeah, I have two. It goes on one side and then in the back. And then there's another piece that comes in up from the railroad and all the way back.
See, I don't want to pretend I know the answer or the solution here. And Jack, I'm not going to ask you to wade into, no pun intended, DEP or EPA regulations. But since they are maintained sometimes, who's responsible for the maintenance of this?
Sorry, I can't say off the top of my head. There's probably, if there were planning board approvals, that some of them result of, it's hard to say.
It's hard to say, yeah.
I remember when I talked to the engineer, Mr. Corbin says, he's right, what he said is that there was some issue with the DEP.
Yeah.
That's what I was told, and that's what I told him.
Right.
So, and he knows that because we've had this conversation before, and I know he had it with Sweeney too, before Al took over.
are they not draining properly? Is it backing up water into your property?
Oh, no, I don't know water in the basement. I have my pipes from the sump pump go out to it, but it gets filled up with debris. If you go by 6 months to a year, there are lots of trees on both sides. The limbs come down, they go in there. I have to go in there, and I go in with rubber boots and take them out.
And if you
But
didn't
it still,
do that, what
it
would
still
happen?
drains, is what I'm asking.
Well, slow, and I think it would go even higher than it did, like just the other day. It goes up quite a bit. It goes up maybe 10 feet over the top and keeps going up. And the people on the other side of the street, under the culvert, because I'm on one side, they're on the other. They're in a lower area. That really fills up. I don't know whether that will really, what you can do there. That I don't know. All I'm saying is there's no maintenance being done at all that I know of
So I don't wanna
on
put-
that system.
I don't want to put our current, I know you said two DPW.
Yeah, I just got to know him today.
Okay. Now, Al, I'm not putting you on the spot to opine or comment on this. I'm not even aware that DPW does any work on any of the culverts, nor have we ever tasked you to do that. Nor do you have the manpower. So I don't know. I don't even know what maintenance of these things would entail.
I'm actually kind of familiar with it since I have a large one in my property. And the way mine says it on the deed is I'm responsible for general maintenance, cleaning of branches and debris and twigs, that kind of stuff. But if it's maintenance beyond what is found in my garage, like tools that would be found in my garage, then it falls upon the town. That's what my agreement is, I believe. I recently read it, so it says something similar to that, but I don't know if it's that way
I don't
for
have that.
everybody's agreement.
No,
That's
I
why it's
don't
hard
have
to
that.
say without knowing more.
Right.
I do know that the Department of Public Works does go every year. They open up the storm drains and take them out, and they go in there and clean them. That's part of the storm water system, because you have both above ground and you have below ground pipes. It's a two-part system, and those guys do go out, take up the drain, and clean out underneath there. They do that.
But there
They've
may
been
be
doing
wetlands.
that for years, but nobody ever goes down any of those channels to see that there's some debris there. And as I told him, if I look down the channel that goes all the way to Sterling, and I see that a tree is down, it's really blocking things there, I call them up, and all the administrations have eventually had a guy come out with a saw and cut it and put it over. So that's okay. But nobody's going down there looking at a regular basis, and they're just letting it go. And I think you should do something about it.
Okay, we can't give you an answer
I
this
know you
evening, but let us discuss it with Al and perhaps with the county DEP, I guess it would, well, it wouldn't be the county DEP, it'd be the state DEP.
Right.
I mean, because believe it or not, the DEP, I often joke, you know, in terms of authority in New Jersey, you have local government muppets like
Right.
us. Then you go to the county, and then you go to state legislature, then you go to the governor, and then you get to the DEP. Nobody tells the DEP what to do. So I'm not saying that is right or wrong in terms of the way it was presented to you, but it's possible that there are DEP restrictions on what type of equipment can be used there. So why don't we look into it for you?
Okay, sure.
If you wanted to give us your
Well,
contact, well, Matt has it.
He
right?
has it. He has it. Well, he should have been looking into it all along. I mean, I've been here years. This is a.
I don't have any more because I
This is a
switched emails, I
multi-year
lost all the
problem.
contacts.
Would you be able to reach out to maybe our clerk, Megan Phillips, and just send her your contact information? So that way, when we get some information, we can
Oh,
come
sure,
back.
sure.
Or you're
I can-
always welcome to come here if you get in trouble with your wife again.
Well, you should maintain it. It's your system. It's your storm water system.
But to Jack's, to our township attorney's point, and to Vic's point, they're not all one size fits all. We don't know what can be done. Like in Vic's case, your deed says that you're responsible for the maintenance.
I'm responsible for
In
cleaning
some
that,
case,
sir.
so we don't know.
In my case.
We
Okay.
need to look into yours very specifically.
It depends on the agreement between I believe, the contractor or the developer and the township, I believe.
And some of them probably predate subdivisions, and some of them are wetlands probably, so as Matt said.
I think it is wetlands,
they're-
that's the problem.
they're deep.
What we can assure you this evening is we're gonna look into it. And I know,
I've heard
and you
that
know where
before.
we are.
I've heard that before. I'm a pretty patient guy. But okay, thank you.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming this evening, and for staying so long, by the way.
Yeah, I thought that was deliberate, that you were trying to.
Well, Brendan Ray, R-A-E, did say to me, if you talk long enough, maybe he won't have a complaint, but. All right, so thank you so much. I don't see any other member of the public here this evening unless two chiefs. Cole, you can't, now, at home.
There is a T. Keelik raising their hand, so I'm going to allow you to speak. If you could state your name and your address for the record, please.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Tom Keelich. I'm on Madison Street here in Gillette. I just wanted to echo the last gentleman's issue a little bit regarding some of the stormwater and its movement through the town. Right now, if, you know, when this meeting adjourns, eventually, if you go up Morristown Road, you will see the 3.5 inches of water we've gotten, 3.5 inches of rain we've gotten over the past 72 hours has really flooded the neighborhood, including a lot of the backyards and homes. on Madison Street. So I think this is a bigger issue within the township that really does need to be addressed and needs to be looked at. I know a number of years ago there was talk about kind of storm management system being put into place, and that didn't happen. That didn't pass. I think we're at the point now where 3.5 inches of rain kind of creates unusable property and impassable roads within the township, which is an issue. I'm not sure again who is responsible for this, whether it's the township or the county or the the EPA. But it does create issue for residents of the township, and again, not sure what can be done, but I do want to echo kind of what the previous gentleman was saying about it being an issue.
Sorry. I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure, so if we're hearing you correctly, you feel as if that issue that you just described is due to the non-maintenance of a retention system, or is it somewhat related?
Well, exactly. So, after 3.5 inches of rain, my backyard has about 3 feet of water, while some of the downstream houses seem to be, the channels, the tributaries that eventually lead into the Passaic River, they tend to drive faster than some of the kind of upstream little tributaries. So, I'm around Lombardo Farms, and kind of back there, the water kind of overflows the ponds and the stream, while kind of downstream, it dries up. So there's got to be some kind of issue. I haven't kind of traversed through everyone's backyard to see where, whether it's leaves or logs or sticks, or something's got to be backing things up to the point where it's ending up in our yards instead of flowing downriver.
Got it.
Thank you so much. We're aware of a lot of the flooding concerns in town. They are in fact chronic. There's no silver bullet on this. Can I ask, how long have you been on Madison?
So, kind of to juxtaposition, the last gentleman was, I think he said he was a 50-year resident. I am a 3-month resident, so I am new to the township. I am aware that there have been kind of long-standing issues. Talked to a lot of the neighbors, and really this year, after Hurricane Ida passed through, kind of unprecedented levels. But, again, if you drive down Morristown Road, the fact that the roadway was covered this morning and this afternoon, water levels rose afterwards. Police had to kind of block off the road for a period of time. The neighbors that have been here for a number of years have said that, they haven't seen this happen before in this part. So, I don't think it's necessarily just the environment or kind of the nature of the beast. It does seem to be a problem that is getting worse over time. And of course, I just happened to step into it recently.
Okay, I hear you loud and clear. Unfortunately, maybe it was you. You moved into town 3 months ago, and we flooded twice in such a short period of time. Unfortunately, Madison is prone to flooding. It has been forever. There was a possibility a few years back, working with the Army Corps, of mitigating the flooding in certain parts of town. Downtown Sterling and Madison were the two main areas that would have benefited from it. We have had conversations recently with Congressman Malinowski. We're going to revisit the possibility of looking at what might be able to be done. It's expensive, and we would need dance partners to work with us, the federal government and the state government. We'll have to revisit it in terms of what can be done. The only thing I would point out to you, if somebody told you that it's never happened on Madison, that's not the most accurate of information. We know when Madison's going to flood. We follow the river gauge off of the gorge. We can tell you when that's going to happen based on what that gauge is saying. So it's unfortunate. Madison is one of the areas in town that's prone to flooding.
Yeah, and I do understand that portions of the street do flood. Again, I've spoken to kind of a 8-year resident and someone kind of at the end of the road that's been here for much longer, 20 to 30 years. And again, it's all anecdotal, so it's really tough to say and secondhand. But, they have been telling me it's, while sections flood, it seems to be more pervasive. It seems to, again, it happened more than once this year. And to an extent where it really is, unfortunately tearing up the landscaping, killing some of the younger trees I have in the yard and everything else. So, again, not sure, as you said, what can be done, but I figure this committee is a good place to start addressing.
Thank you for coming and for participating this evening. Brendan?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just join Mr. Cortman's movement. He came here solo, and now I think it's an official movement. So I want to be part of it. I think we have the flooding isn't anecdotal in this town. It's real. It's happened. September and now this week, and who knows what we're going to get at the end of the week. If there's some system that's in place that somehow or other has been neglected for whatever reason, it sounds like there's multitudes of reasons. I think what I'd like to do is make the commitment that this becomes a priority for us to figure it out, because this could potentially assist in the short term. We're looking at longer term solutions, absolutely, but in the short term, if we can work this out and actually have some maintenance on it and regular maintenance, then this issue of flooding might at least be mitigated somewhat for the residents.
Can I add something, Brendan? It starts with finding the problem, and it probably starts, and we can maybe talk offline, maybe get some volunteer groups involved as well. We know where the tributaries are that lead to the rivers. It's an easy thing to walk those and see if there's some obvious problems, because the problem could be downstream from this gentleman, right? And it could be as simple as, branches collecting leaves, pull that plug out, and it's functional, not perfect, but functional. And the same thing over there, right?
Yep.
But it starts with, before we even talk about maintenance, let's see if we can find the problem. And that's cheap.
Yep.
The Boy Scouts used to do that every year on the
Right.
Passaic River.
Yep. All I'm saying here is, something like that is fine, and actually I think we have a chairman for any kind of a group right here who could certainly help us, but it's something I'd certainly be involved in as well. We make it a priority and a commitment, and that could finding the source of the problem. First step. That's what we should commit to do. But it's something that's going to help residents, significantly over the coming years as flooding becomes even more of an issue.
Yes.
So I'm completely with you.
Okay, thank you, and I apologize if, I feel weird, I'm looking up into the sky because that's where your voice is coming from.
He's out there.
He has muted him. Oh, he's back.
I appreciate. I think that commitment from the committee to try to find the root cause is very much appreciated. And I'll communicate that to a lot of people on this block. As you said, they've kind of looked through some of the issues here on Madison Street, especially. So I think that commitment will go a long way, and I appreciate that.
By the way, it was rude of me. Welcome to town. Sorry, you've been here for only 3 months and you've experienced 2 of these incidents, but welcome to town. Long Hill really is a beautiful town. And by the way,
do you have a generator?
Can I interest you in volunteering for First Aid Squad? Do you have like an EMT?
I unfortunately I do not, but you may hear my voice again, and I may make an appearance from time to time. So I do plan to be involved, and we are happy to be here despite all of the water that Mother Nature has gifted us.
All right. Hey, welcome, and thank you for attending this evening.
Thank you.
Megan, any others?
There are 2 other participants, but I don't see anybody raising their hand.
Well, in that case, I look for a motion. We're going to go back into exec with no further action. But I say happy Halloween to everybody. And please drive safely on Halloween with all children walking around. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn into exec.
So moved.
Second.
Good evening, everybody, and please remember to vote. November 2nd, this Tuesday.